What's up, everybody? How's it going? Thank you all for joining me tonight, or today, wherever you are in the world. And I hope you're all doing very well. I know there's a lot of videos you could have clicked on tonight, so with all my heart, thank you for clicking on this one. Your view means a lot, and I hope the content that follows is enough to make you not regret the decision. So with that being said, quick disclaimer before I proceed with the actual video. I skimmed through this posting inside of Reddit that I found. I don't know the specifics of the whole entire story, so there might be aspects that are pretty extreme. It does involve possession and demonic possession in particular, apparently drug abuse, addiction. So if any of these things are gonna cause adverse effects mentally to anybody watching, I highly recommend clicking off now. Yeah, I mean it's cool and interesting to look into topics like this, but the reality of it is it's a mystery, you know, and the mystery is a never-ending spiral wormhole of dread, sorrow, confusion, and just questioning the reality of negative forces, which at times can be extremely overwhelming for anybody, especially someone battling with pre-existing conditions themselves. You add in drug abuse and addiction, it gets slippery. So, with all that being said, I hope you all enjoy, and let's get to it. This Reddit post is titled Drugs, Demons, and Exorcisms. And it's from Reddit user Noah D1992 on the Reddit subreddit Real Ghost Stories. So here we go. Beware. This is a long story. So this is a true story about drug addiction and dealing with demonic paranormal activity. A lot of this stuff might sound far-fetched or sound like it's from a corny movie, but these things really happened. There's a lot of other things that happened as well, but some of it could possibly be explained by other means, so I left a lot of the things out. I basically only included the things that were obviously paranormal. Okay. She's got my attention. She's got my attention. It all started when I began dating a girl about 13 years ago. We were both 15 years old, and we lived right next to each other at the same apartment complex. Her mom would allow me to stay the night some nights and watch movies. Her mom was a heavy alcoholic and was also doing meth on and off, although we didn't know it at the time. The first paranormal thing that we experienced was when we were in one of the rooms upstairs. It used to be my girlfriend's room. The room next door to us was her little brother's room, but he never slept in there. We heard the door open and close a few times right in the row. It weirded us out, so we went into the room to look around. There was nobody in there. Windows closed, nobody in the closet, and like I said, second story. My girlfriend's little brother was 4 years old. His mom wasn't really the best mom and would allow him to watch the movie 13 Ghosts all day long. It's not like a scary movie, but for a 4-year-old, that's tough. My girlfriend moved her room downstairs, and her mom moved up to the second floor. As corny as it sounds, he would sit upstairs and watch 13 Ghosts and repeat all day long, just rocking back and forth. You could go upstairs and walk by the room, and he would be so stuck into that TV that he wouldn't even know you were there. Later on, he started telling us the walls were talking to him. I asked him what he meant, and now he knows it's the walls. And he said, because he can't see anybody there. My girlfriend had an aunt that had Down syndrome. She had the mental capacity of a 5-year-old girl, and also happened to be obsessed with horror movies. She stayed the night one night and slept in my girlfriend's room downstairs. I was laying in the chair watching Surf's Up, and my girlfriend was asleep on the couch. It was very early in the morning, like 2 or 3, and I started hearing her aunt talking in the back room. I was wondering why she was awake, and I turned on the TV to hear what she was saying. She was repeating the words, "No, stop, don't, I can't do it, I won't do it, stop it, leave me alone." And she was repeating it over and over and over. Jesus, man. That's eerie. I got goosebumps from reading that one. I shook my girlfriend awake and told her to listen. She listened for a little bit and we both got freaked out. So we left and went over to my house. Me and my girlfriend had a good friend that used to live in town with us, but he moved to a different town. In the summer, because we didn't see him much, he would come stay long periods of time at my girlfriend's house with us. Her mom would basically let us do whatever we wanted. My mom didn't like him that much, so he would sleep over at my girl's house. I know that sounds weird, but it really wasn't. One night while he was over, I awoke to a knock on the door in my apartment. I got up, and it was them. They wanted to stay at my house because something scared them. My girlfriend was sleeping and she woke up to a loud slam and then heard heavy footsteps running up the stairs. She yelled my friend's name who was sleeping in the living room on the couch, and he responded with, "You heard that too?" It wasn't a person that did it. Fast forward a little bit and my family had moved out of town into a different town nearby, and my girlfriend's family stayed in town but moved into a different house. At this point, I had become a drug addict. Not so much on the hard stuff yet, but definitely a drug addict, and a garbage young adult with no job. We would stay in my girlfriend's mom's house until she got tired of us and kicked us out. And then we'd go to my mom's house in the town nearby until she got tired of us and gave us the boot back to my girlfriend's mom's house. The paranormal stuff began to increase, and it was no longer just at my girlfriend's mom's house. Whatever it was, I believed it was following us from place to place. Now that's a reoccurring theme when it comes to nefarious entities in the paranormal realm. It's really it becomes an attachment. It's also a very early sign of possession. There's different stages to possession. Off the top of my head, in no particular order, I believe it's like infestation, attachment, something like that. I know there's a couple stages to it. Obviously, I'm not a professional exorcist, but yeah, when you're having paranormal experiences and you try to leave and it's still going on, that's not fun. So while I was at my mom's house, there are these kinds of things that started to happen. My sister was a young mom with 3 kids. 4 as this story progresses. Her husband, and the kids were living with my mom. We all started to periodically hear babies crying. I know it sounds like a movie, but this stuff really happened. We could all be outside in the backyard, pushing the kids on the swings, or doing whatever else, and then we hear one of the babies fussing. One of us would go in to check, sometimes my mom, sometimes me, and the babies would either be asleep or not even at the house and somewhere else with my sister. The whole family was hearing this, even my extremely Christian mom. My oldest niece, who was maybe about 5 years old at the time, started talking a lot about the man in the closet and was too scared to sleep with the closet door open. One night she told my sister, "Mommy, it was dark in your room last night." And my sister responded with, "Yeah, baby, it was nighttime." My niece said, "No, it was darker than normal." And then told my sister, "The giraffe with the mad eyes wants to hurt Daddy." Holy crap. These were things that she was claiming she was seeing. Okay, guys, listen. Either this author of this post is just very creative with his storytelling abilities, or he had legitimate experiences of some kind, because this is beyond bizarre. I mean, I don't know if you can see it on my arm, the hair sticking up on my arm a little bit here. I mean, as I'm reading some of these things, man, it's legitimately giving me the creeps. Man, so, you know, you go from the 4-year-old brother of his girlfriend, who would just, you know, say weird stuff, and you know, now you have another child that I'm presuming has never met the other child. That's very scary. Jeez, man. That's what stuck out to me was the quote, "No, it was darker than normal." Without going into too much detail, that hits me on a different level, because I know what that looks like. Again, not going into detail because that's maybe a different time, but that's one of the scariest things I've ever heard a human say, because it hit so close to me that I don't think I've ever heard something hit that close ever. Let's carry on though. Just a quick side note. We just found out last year that their daddy had been molesting the girls for some time, and now he's in prison. I feel like that's relevant. I began to become obsessed with the things in our house, almost like I was constantly thinking about it. Kept telling my mom, there's something in the house, there's something in the house. I never stopped talking about it. Finally, Mom said, I believe that there's something in the house, but I feel like whatever it is really focused on you. After she told me that, I broke down and began crying like it was something clicked in my head. This thing is everywhere I go, and I feel like it's because of me. There are many occasions where I was laying on the couch watching TV, and out of the corner of my eye I would see the silhouette of a person/shadow peeking around the corner from the kitchen. I would turn my head and there would be nothing there. I hadn't said anything about it yet until one day, my sister, my girlfriend, and I were talking about the paranormal stuff in the house. My girlfriend said when I'm laying on the couch, it's like I see somebody peeking around the corner at me. But when I look, there's nothing. My sister and I both gasped at the time, because we had seen the same thing. The only difference is my sister saw something, turned her head and then caught whatever it was quickly walk around the corner, then nobody was in the kitchen. I could take this time to explain that everybody in the house aside from my mom had become a drug addict at this point. Jeez, man. None of us were on meth yet, so these weren't hallucinations or paranoia. If you're familiar with drugs, you understand that smoking pot or popping pills doesn't cause you to hallucinate crazy things like these. I should say, I mean, you can get marijuana-induced psychosis states if you consume enough marijuana, especially with combining it with the different prescription medications. You know, if you start taking benzodiazepines and you know, combining them with SSRIs or suppressants or stimulants and a wide variety of different pharmaceuticals, you could probably experience some weird stuff. I'm sure you could concoct something in your mind if you already I'm not trying to say this isn't legitimate. I'm just saying, like, I don't know about that little part right there, but let's continue. Whatever this thing was, it seemed like it really started to become strong, like a poltergeist. This is where it became very prominent, was letting us know that it was definitely there. One pretty intense thing that I remember at this house was the morning my friend and I came into the house after dropping a paper route. It was fairly early and we came into the door and heard dishes being slammed around in the kitchen. Same kitchen where we saw the shadow. Like I said, my mom is a very Christian woman. She loves Jesus. But sometimes, when she was aggravated from arguing with me or my sister, she would angrily knock dishes around while she was cleaning. My first thought when I walked in the house and heard the dishes being slammed was my mom must be pissed right now. We walked around the corner and froze. Nobody was in the kitchen. My friend said, "You heard that too, right?" And I responded with, "Of course I heard that." I opened the pantry door and no one was there. This was very intense. It wasn't like a mouse infestation. It wasn't like a mouse infestation. I've had mice in different houses, and we never had that issue in this house. It also wasn't like a stack of dishes fell over when we walked in. It was very obviously dishes being slammed around the kitchen for a period of probably 10 seconds. Jeez, man. It was like things were angrily being moved from place to place. When we walked around the corner, it abruptly stopped. So, during this whole period of time, we were moving back and forth from my mom's to my girlfriend's mom's house. When we would go to my girlfriend's mom's house, the paranormal stuff continued to happen. It always felt like someone was watching you in the bathroom. It's easy to dismiss that, except I've had multiple friends tell me the same thing when I hadn't mentioned it. We would be doing drugs at night in the shed on the porch, and hear the screen door and footsteps. We'd look out, and there would be nobody. A Cheerio was thrown in the bathroom. My friend was in there, and everybody was in the living room aside from him. A friend of mine who was a skeptic and didn't believe us was over smoking spice with us one night. We all smoked a bowl, sat down the pipe, and sat there quietly spacing out. Out of nowhere, two big knocks/slams on the kitchen wall right next to us caused my friend to reevaluate his skepticism. It was loud and aggressive. This is where the hard drugs come in. Make of this what you will, but this is what my friend told me he saw. My best friend Kenny was also like a brother. His dad had gotten my girlfriend's mom pregnant, and they had a kid. Kenny was my friend before that, and then we all became family. His dad married my girlfriend's mom, who was basically my second mom. They ended up getting divorced, but we all lived in the house together for a little while. Kenny still came over and stayed all the time at my girlfriend's house with us, and she was like a mother to him too. He began using meth and fentanyl a lot. He would come down off a runner, come over to our house and eat all of the food because he hadn't eaten in days. Because of this, my girlfriend and her mom told me that I had to tell him he couldn't keep staying in the night. One night he came over and I told him, "You're not staying here, bro." He begged me to stay and told me he was scared to sleep at his house. I asked him why, and this is what he told me. "I was high on meth, and it all started with an extension cord being tugged on. I got up and walked from my room into the living room and looked out the window. It was getting dark outside, and the shadow of what looked like an old woman, hunched over with a blanket draped over her, was standing in the yard. Holy shit. I walked out of the yard and was there. I walked out into the yard, and there were these two skinny little things running around her and looking kind of like kids. I hollered, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And whatever this was turned towards me. I couldn't see the face. It was all a shadow. But it turned in my direction. In my peripheral vision, there was these things kind of dancing around, moving from side to side like they were messing with me. They would get really close to me, and then I would turn towards them, and they would be back by the truck, moving around like that. I realized they were demons, so I went and grabbed my Bible. I came outside and said, "You can't hurt me because I have this." I went back into my room and looked out the window. There were shadows all over the yard, some behind the trees, and some were tall, making it look like the trees were shaking. Some were rolling around on the ground, like they were trying to be sneaky. The ones that got the closest to me were at the foot of my window. They were the only ones that had eyes. They looked like little imps with yellow eyes that were looking up from the ground. All of that happened, then it ended with my extension cord being tugged on as well. Remember, that's the story he told me. That wasn't my experience. Okay, now listen, I have no experience with consuming meth. So I don't understand fully the a scale and range of effects that'll have on your psyche. I presumably they're significant. However, I never looked into it. I've never done it. And the extension of my knowledge goes to Breaking Bad. So I say that because I don't know how. I say that because out of everything we've read so far, that seems the most chalkable up, being able to be chalked up to just drug-induced paranoia or delusions or a psychosis state or whatnot. But anyways, let's continue. He told me this, so I said, okay, you can stay here, bro. With all this crazy stuff happening and the drugs taking us over, we decided to go to the church together and give our hearts to Jesus. This story isn't being used to convert anyone. It's just what happened. Anyway, that Sunday we went up to get prayed for. We fist bumped each other and said, let's do this together, as we were both nervous. After church, we were both still using drugs. I wasn't on meth yet, but we were both still using. We were trying to hold each other accountable, but really struggling. The next Sunday, he came by in the morning and asked me to go to church with him and his dad. I made up a lie and said I was going with my mom, even though I knew I wasn't. After church, Kenny came over and asked me if I would give him a ride to a nearby town to get money, so he could pick up some fentanyl. I told him no when he got frustrated with me. I told him to ask my girlfriend, and if she said yes, I would go. He didn't ask her, he just left. That was the last time I ever saw him. Wow. Well, that's a perfect representation of the strain and deterioration of relationships, lifelong relationships that can deteriorate and crumble right in front of your eyes due to the consumption and addiction of substances. I'm not here to talk down on addiction or the use of recreational drugs in any way, because I have no, my opinion doesn't matter on that. It's always very subjective based. But man, it's tough. It's tough when you hear stuff like that. I'm also curious of if he had any prior stories, Buddy Kenny had any prior stories with seeing anything when he lived with his dad, or if it kind of was latched onto him afterwards, after him and his dad moved out of the house after the divorce. So I wish he kind of elaborated on that a little bit. I think we can speculate that pretty accurately though. Okay, here we go. I felt a very strong draw to go to church that night. I went alone, and there was some pastor there that I had never seen. I was sitting towards the back as he was preaching. I was thinking certain things in my head. I was questioning certain things about God. And on 2 separate occasions, this man looked me in the eyes and answered the questions that I was asking in my mind. Holy shit. Bro, the amount of times that this reading is giving me goosebumps is pretty crazy. That's so nuts. He then pointed at me and said, someone over here needed to hear that. I began sobbing, and that night I really fully gave my heart to God. I'm not a Catholic person. My family is, but I don't care what God you worship. If it's a positive entity, so be it. But that is beautiful. That really clicked for him to search for a meaning of a higher existence and have a relationship with that. That's beautiful. I'm very cool with atheism and being agnostic and stuff like that as well. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying that's beautiful to hear. I was still crying by the time I got home, and I was telling my girlfriend about the experience I had while we were sitting in the bathroom. We both felt a cold chill, and then all of a sudden it was like I couldn't take a deep breath. It got so bad, I thought I needed to go to the hospital. I puked in my mouth. Oh, sorry, I lost my voice. I puked in my mouth and went and sat on the couch trying to calm down. This feeling finally went away. and I fell asleep. The phone rang the next morning. Sorry, I keep losing my place here. Okay. Hold on. I puked in my mouth and went and sat on the couch trying to calm down. The feeling finally went away and I fell asleep. The phone rang the next morning and my friend Shadow was at the house with me and my girlfriend. Okay, so his friend's name is Shadow. I was questioning that. Shadow answered the phone and said, "What? How?" He turned to me and said, "Kenny is dead." Wow. That night, Kenny had overdosed and died on fentanyl in his bedroom. I don't know if this has anything to do with me not being able to breathe and puking. I'm not saying it does, but I'm just saying that it all happened on the same night. It was just kind of strange. I broke all of my pipes and tried to get sober after losing my best friend. I was still struggling, but I had a new outlook on life and a true desire to serve God. Fast forward just a bit, and my girlfriend mom would find a boyfriend who would also happen to be an addict and alcoholic. Go figure. We move into his house and the paranormal stuff continues there. I start praying every day, reading my Bible, riding my bike into town to find a job. I'm still doing drugs and drinking, but I'm really trying my best to stop. The last paranormal thing that we experienced was getting up in the morning to get ready for work. My girlfriend and I walked into the bathroom and grabbed our clothes, and then the button on the TV clicked on the TV. TV clicked on the TV, turned on in front of us. That wasn't worded too well. Sorry, that sounded like a mess. It was an old school tube TV. We immediately knew it was paranormal, but we were so I can't make out that word. I'm just gonna fill it in. We were so numb to that stuff, it just didn't really even faze us that much. It was just like, whoa, that was crazy. And on with our morning. I had gotten sober for 3 years. Whoa. Was going to church regularly and married my girlfriend. We moved into our own house and didn't experience any paranormal stuff for the entire time. Wow, okay. See, this is very interesting. This individual gets sober, moves into a whole new house, nothing happens. He previously claims that everywhere he goes, this entity or a spirit of some kind follows him, but then it stops once he turns himself over to God, starts doing drugs, gets a job, so it's very interesting. I guess I spoke too soon. I ended up slipping back into drugs after this period of time. Divorced my wife, became a very heavy alcoholic and pill addict. And then eventually found my way into heroin and meth. That was something I said I would never do after losing Kenny. As soon as I introduced the drugs back into my life, the paranormal stuff began again. I was working with developmentally disabled adults. My participant was in a wheelchair. And when I put him into bed, I would bring girls over to his house and have sex with them on his hide-a-bed and do heroin. Jesus. That's okay. I was sitting with a girl on the hide-a-bed. My giant gauge earrings were sitting on the arm of the chair / hide-a-bed. It was very flat and sturdy. We were sitting there watching TV, not moving at all, and all of a sudden one of my gauges flies off the couch and hits the wall. I started freaking out and saying, "Did you see that?" She was freaking out too, and we couldn't stop talking about it. I did what any rational person would do and shook the arm of the chair to see how sturdy it was, even though I knew we didn't knock it off. I went and grabbed my gauge and put it back on the couch by the other one, laid back down and started thinking to myself, that would be crazy if it happened twice, and no kidding, it flies off the couch again. This experience happened right in front of our eyes, and despite everything that I had already seen, it was so unbelievable. While I was on drugs, I was constantly having thoughts of blowing. Okay, trigger warning. Skip the next 5 seconds, 10 seconds if you don't want to hear about severe mental health. While I was on drugs, I was constantly constantly having thoughts of blowing my head off. It was like I could see it in my mind, me putting a gun in my mouth and blowing off the top of my head. I started using meth, and of course I would see shadows regularly. Whether or not you believe the shadows you see on meth are just from being up for too long or actually demons, you definitely see a lot of stuff. Sounds awful. So this is the craziest part of the whole story. You can call me crazy, call me a liar, but this happened. It's the crazy experience of my whole life. Okay, I'm ready. Final stretch. I ended up going to prison for 3 years for trafficking heroin. I turned my life around, got out at the age of 27 and became a licensed pipe fitter, a certified personal trainer, and walked away from drugs until beginning to abuse kratom. I definitely turned my life around, but there was a lot of things from my past that were still lingering. I was really dealing with hate and rage. Serious rage fits. And I started getting these weird, unexplainable, evil feelings. Like if I bought something and it came out to $6.66, I would get this feeling almost like I liked it, but in a dark and evil way. Or when I would have sex with my girlfriend, I would take off my cross necklace because it would swing around and I would get the same nasty feeling. It's an unexplainable feeling. The only way I can describe it was that it felt demonic. Then I started having dreams that were demons in me. Well, my friend encouraged me to get prayed for, and I finally decided to do it. As the day I was going to get prayers was approaching, I had another dream that someone was trying to pray for me, and in real life, I woke up growling and jumping to the other side of the couch to get away. It was hard for me to believe that there were demons in me, but I didn't know what to expect. I kept an open mind, but really doubted it. While they began praying for me, my body locked up. I was screaming, growling, and moving like a snake. This was not my doing. It was like I lost control of my own body and something very evil took hold of it. I went through hours of this until I was physically worn out, and I couldn't take it anymore. My body was so sore from fighting over it. There's not much else to say about that experience other than that it was freaking crazy, and it was so hard to believe it was happening. Afterwards, I just cried and cried, just to know I had been living this with this thing in me was so hard to come to terms with. I actually have a video of it, and it's so foul looking. It's like something out of a horror movie. Holy shit, I want to see that. I'm gonna message this guy. I gotta see this video. Since going through that, my life has changed in such a huge way. I still have my struggles, but there's things about me that just changed immediately. I don't know for sure, but I believe that whatever thing or things were in my house had gotten into me. I truly believe that opening yourself to drugs brings a lot of nasty stuff with it. When you're using drugs and you let them take over your mind, you become a bad person. It's a recipe for the demonic. Any time that I was sober and God in my life, these things ceased. But they were pretty quick to come back when I began to use. I personally believe that back before prison, when I was on heroin, is when the spirit came into me. That's when I began picturing suicide and became someone else. It all started with me living in the house of an alcoholic and drug addict, and then me and everybody around me became drug addicts, and all of our lives fell apart. Thanks for reading this, it says too. Wow. What an intense story. Man. That's very intense. There's a lot to unpack with that whole, you could really read a whole synopsis based on that. If you want to look at it from a pro-paranormal perspective or an anti or more rational approach, traditional rational approach, there's so many avenues. you could chalk it all up to the drugs. You know, you could chalk it up to the neglect and abuse. We don't know the history of mental illness with any of these individuals, so that's a big one. Man, that's crazy. Oh, I wish this was like a movie. I wish there was like a film about this that I could just, directly watch right after this, but interesting. I got a little creepy feeling right now. It's interesting. Jeez, man. So what'd you guys think? Did that scare you? Did it hit you different? Anything like that? Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what you guys' opinion is on stuff like this and the paranormal. Obviously, the paranormal is a pretty vague term, and a lot of similar stories to this tend to revolve around Orthodox religion. Not all of them, but a lot of them, especially when it comes to like entities and stuff like that. So that kind of deters me from not discrediting some of them, but really just being like, well, I have to connect a lot of pieces to believe all of that, but there's certain aspects of that really hit hard that I was like, holy crap, that's insane. But yeah, geez, man, that was something different. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. If you made it this far, much love. Thank you so much. And let me know what you think about the black and white camera. I think my hair's a mess right now, but I think when I do these videos, if I start doing a little series with reading some scary stories, I'm gonna have a black and white effect on the videos. Get that kind of Twilight Zone type of feel, Well, anyways, thank you all for watching. Take care, stay safe, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. Keep being great people. Love yourself. Love everybody around you who deserves your love and respect. Be kind to everybody. And, yeah, find purpose in this crazy existence, guys. That's all we can do. Anyone who tells you they don't know the meaning of life as an objective truth is a liar. You gotta find that truth inside yourself and run with it. Don't get addicted to the drugs. One love.